welcome to episode number 76 of the Knitting Teaspoon podcast. I'm Liesbeth, your host, and this is a podcast which is mostly about knitting, but also about some of the other crafts that I have been up to. And it's been a long time since I've last recorded a podcast. It's been over half a year, and that wasn't really the plan, and I will come to why that happened in a bit. But first, let's start with what I'm wearing. I am wearing my Dusala cardigan, which is a pattern by Asa Tricosa, except that the lace paneling that you see on here is not from that pattern. I put it on the basic cardigan shape myself. It's from the Japanese Knitting Stitch Bible, and I'm not really sure what number it is. 49 comes to mind, but I really don't know if that's true, so I will probably be able to look that up in my project notes on Ravelry, which I will do after recording and while I'm editing this video. So underneath, you probably cannot really see, but you can maybe see some little hints of that here. I'm wearing a shirt that I've made myself. I'm really happy that I've made some more short sleeve shirts recently, because I have had a lot of long sleeve shirts, and sometimes you just don't want long sleeve shirts, especially when you're working with your hands on cleaning bumpers. I noticed. So there was a desperate need for some more short sleeve shirts, and I have some of those now. And one of them is in this pinkish color here, and I have some more black ones as well, and I have some fabric lying around to make even more in various colors. So I briefly mentioned that I've been away for a bit longer than I had anticipated in the previous podcast. I briefly mentioned that we had bought a house and that we were going to move, and that you would not have to expect a podcast in October, but obviously we are a bit further than October by now. And first of all, the move took a little bit longer than we had anticipated, as in there was a lot left to tidy up in our old apartment, and a lot more stuff to unpack than we had anticipated. Also, on the 1st of November, I found out I was pregnant again, which sadly ended in a miscarriage that I will tell you a little bit more about later. Then in early December, my husband got COVID. Luckily not any severe symptoms, but it meant that we were quarantined for quite a while, and in this period I started having the first symptoms of having a miscarriage, and the day after I came out of quarantine I had an ultrasound which confirmed that we were indeed expecting a miscarriage. This was just before Christmas, and that meant that the time frame that I had in December for maybe trying to record a podcast went by in not being in a very good mood, I can say. And then in January I did miscarriage, which went along with hemorrhage, and after an emergency intervention which took place in the middle of the night, so it was really emergency, I was ready for a blood transfusion because I had lost so much blood. Which also meant that I did not feel particularly well for the rest of January and most of February. I couldn't even lift my son without seeing stars and starting to faint, so that was a bit rough. Then there's March to account for, and then my husband tested positive for COVID again, so we went in quarantine again. Both my son and I have never had a positive test. Initially, maybe my son might have had it. I have a whole army of negative tests by now, but I do get symptoms all the time because our son goes to daycare. At least that is when daycare is open, because we've been in another lockdown in the meantime, in which daycare has been closed, and that actually meant some relief of little children. They tend to come home from daycare or school with a runny nose, and I'm one of those lucky moms that tends to get that runny nose as well, which means you have to get a COVID test, which is not my favorite thing in the world to do, but it's not that bad either. Anyway, so my husband has had 2 tests in total, both of which were positive, and I have an army of negative tests, and Still no COVID. Anyway, so then in March I came out of quarantine, but at that moment I was pretty much burned out. There were so many things not really going my way. Also, my wisdom teeth came through in that period, which were causing a lot of pain. They have been removed since, and obviously the days after you have had some teeth removed are not your best days either. So, but luckily now all 4 of them are out, so that can never happen again. Which I also thought the first time when we got out of quarantine because of my husband having COVID, we thought that would never happen again. But you know, COVID apparently is something that you can get twice or more, possibly. I don't know. Anyway, for now he does not have COVID, and fingers crossed that stays that way. Anyway, so in the meantime I have been crafting quite a bit more also than I can share right now, because that will make a very long podcast, I think. And also, a lot of things that I have made for my son, and he wears them and gets them dirty quite fast. So a lot of the stuff is in laundry at the moment. Also, I don't think it's particularly interesting to see how I've made the same shirt over and over again in several different sizes. But anyway, let's get into what I have been doing, and let's start off with the projects that you have seen on a previous podcast that I have by now finished, because you know, we're over half a year later. I'm in a new location, so setting up for the podcast also took a little bit more time than I'm used to, because you know, in a place where you know where you can put your lights and your camera and your chair and everything, you kind of know how to set up and do that. And in a new location you tend to put things down, try if that works, and then shift things around a bit, and then try some different settings, and it's been a while. So one thing I'm noticing right now is that my projects are a little bit too far for me to reach from here. One project that you will have seen on the previous podcast, but that is now finished, is our son's little Marius sweater that he has worn quite a bit during the last winter. It's a lovely warm sweater. It looks great on him, and you can definitely see there are some signs of wear. Basically all of the knitting was done on this project last time, but I hadn't put it together yet. And obviously now it's a sweater and he's worn it, so done. So we have the family sweater again, even though the weather isn't really sweater weather anymore. It's starting to turn into springtime here, which honestly I like, because it makes me want to go outside even more after all the pandemic stuff. Anyway, the next project that I made, and I remember this was something that I worked on quite a bit during the move, is a pair of matching socks. These are knee-high socks for our son, also in a Marius pattern. You can probably see that it matches the sweater. It's also out of leftovers of the seam yarn. I think I had less than a meter left over of the red yarn when I finished this. The pattern that I have used for this, I bought both patterns for the sweater and these socks. I think they might have been the same pattern combination from SKD Designs, I think. I will look that up and put a link down in the description. Well, in the description box, and I will also put in a link on the screen probably. You will probably have seen it by now. The magic of editing. Anyway, so also these socks have been worn quite a bit. They are very nice and warm, and when we went for a walk, and our son did not walk back then yet, it was lovely to put him in extra warm socks. He would typically wear a regular pair of socks underneath, and then have this go up even higher, and that would keep his feet nice and warm, as well as his legs. So that was really good to have a pair of these. I think it would not be as handy if our son was a little bit faster to walk, but he was 12 and a half months old when he started to make his first steps without any guidance, so that's not even a month ago now. And they are finished now. So let me get into another project that I finished since last time. So the next project that I finished since the last episode is the birth tile that I cross-stitched for our son. As you can see, it's not in a list yet. I ordered the frame, which I had to do online because, pandemic. And it turned out to be a little bit too small for this project, so I will have to go and find another frame for it, but it's not very high on my list of to-do things, which is a bit ironic because I set myself a very clear deadline of wanting to have this finished before his first birthday, which I did. I had about a month left. I think I spent a lot of time working on this in the hospital because it was a nice and small project, and I didn't really feel like knitting at that time, also because of the intravenous things that I was on with antibiotics and everything. It didn't work so well to knit for me with the movement, but holding an embroidery hoop was doable. So I decided to, cross stitch instead. And I had a fun project to work on, which also meant that I got a bit more into cross stitch at the time. So since I have been working on another cross stitch project, I got this the yarn or the threads or embroidery floss, I don't know what you would call it, for my birthday from my husband. I got the hoops from my sister. She gave me a set of 4 of them because obviously this is spring and there is going to be a set of 4. I'm working on the summer one, which is almost finished. Sadly, I cannot finish it right now because I made a mistake and forgot to buy the color that I need for this art. For those of you who are wondering what this is a 4 seasons thing, and it's a Stardew Valley fan thing. Stardew Valley is a video game that I like to play a lot, and it's a farming game. You can grow your own crops, you can do a lot of things basically, and it's a game that I love to play. So these are the spring crops that you can grow, and I've seen it quite a few times on the internet, and I liked it, so I wanted to make it too, and so it's finished now. I'm not sure, maybe I should put it in a somewhat smaller hoop at some point. I like the idea of having them all in the same size hoop, and I like the amount of white space that I have around this project, but I think it's maybe a bit too much around here, but I'm not sure. I will see if I need another set when I have finished them all. I'm also not sure what to do about the fall or autumn thing, because it's basically the same project, but the text says either fall or autumn, and I'm really doubting whether I should go for the fall or the autumn option, because the way I learned English, it's autumn, but in the game that this refers to, it's called fall because it's an American game. So I'm not sure what I will do with the 3rd season, but we'll get there when we get there, which is probably pretty soon, or I can start on the winter one. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I wanted to have the spring one done because it's, spring right now, but these are not very big projects. That is, they do not take very long to make. They are pretty big in terms of the number of colors that you need. For one of these projects, I think it's around 30 colors per season on average, and when you do all 4 of them, it's 87 colors, I think, which is little bit expensive, but I love it, and I have a better system to organize my threads now, which my sister and a lot of friends gave me for my birthday. So I can probably organize it a little bit better and not accidentally purchase the same color again if I don't need to. Yeah, but then I will go into the next project that I have been working on, and this is part of my support my local yarn shop project. Since the first lockdown, a lot of businesses here in the Netherlands have been having a rough time because customers can't go to the stores anymore, and even if they do have a web shop, then a lot of people are a little bit hesitant to buy as much as they did before. So maybe if you have a better web shop, then it helps, but anyway, it's difficult, and I know that a lot of people in my environment think it's very hard to buy yarn online, so they really want to see what they are buying before they buy it. So I completely understand, because I like feeling yarn, I like seeing yarn in person before I purchase it as well, but I also think that I'm not the most difficult person in terms of buying yarn online as well, because I've definitely tried that a few times, and I have some very good experiences with that. Also some experiences where the yarn that I got in my hands did not look exactly like what I had thought it would look like, but I can also live with it if it's a slightly different color. But I like unicolor things like this, although this also has a little bit sparkle. And this is Lana Grossa Mailenweiss Late Night, and it's a sock yarn with a little bit of a sparkle. I believe it's Celina. I'm not 100% sure on that. I do not know where I have the tag for these, but is a pair of socks that I have knit for my sister, because I've seen this yarn so often in person, and I know my sister is all into red colors, and I felt like this yarn was perfect to knit her a pair of socks, and I've been postponing making this project for years, I believe, and this year I finally decided to get on with the project and knit it. And because I have been purchasing some yarn online, I mean, I can't support an entire business by myself, but at least I can contribute and do my part. Anyway, so I have bought this sock yarn and made a pair of socks out of it. I'm also experimenting a little with making more rounded toes on socks. Like I tended to do one increase round, one just regular knit round all the way through, and now I'm trying to start off with increase, and then do a bit of alternating an increase round with a non-increase round, and then shifting to a few more knit rounds in between later on, etc., to make a slightly more rounded toe. And this pair is finished and waiting for it to be somewhat nearer to Christmas, or possibly my sister's birthday. She already knows that I've knit these, so I don't think she's watching, but if she is, then it's not bad. She knows exactly what she can expect, I think, and she will have a new pair of socks for her to wear around Christmas. So I do not typically give Christmas presents at that time, because I'm raised with another gift-giving party, so I typically do that at Sinterklaas, which is earlier in December, but that makes it's very possible for her to wear these socks at Christmas time, and I'm sure that she will love the color enough to wear it year round. Maybe not in summer, because I don't know if she likes to wear that warm socks in summer. I do wear hand knit socks all year around. That's also because I do not really have store-bought socks anymore. maybe like 3 pairs left, like hiking socks, and 1 pair of shorty white socks for in shoes for very special occasions. But really, I have enough knitted socks that I can typically wear my own socks. Anyway, so another project that I made out of the yarn that I purchased back then is this pair of teeny tiny baby mittens that my son does not really need that much anymore right now, but they fit him like a glove at the moment, which is ironic because they're not gloves, they're mittens. Anyway, this is a pattern from a book by Jorid Lindvik, and I think I made a pattern from that before. Yeah, I made a pair of gamer gloves for my husband a while back, and the pattern that I used was basically a pattern of hers, but then cut short to, you know, not have a finger covering part. And possibly I've made more mittens out of that book. I'm not really sure. Maybe for my mother-in-law. I have knit her a pair of gloves at some point, or mittens. Anyway, so yeah, they also come with a few baby patterns, which mostly mean that you have to, like, some patterns come with 2 types, that like a large stitch count one and a smaller stitch count one, and then by adjusting the gauge you get sizes for different ages. So this was the, I don't know, maybe 0 to 2 year size or something, and my son is 13 months right now, and well, they fit him quite well and I like it. Initially they were a bit hard to put on, but you know, tiny fingers, tiny thumbs and trying to put on a glove is not always easy, but it works, and I really love how they turned out. This is knit out of Lamana, and I think it's Como, but I'm not really sure what yarn it is. I can probably look it up. Although I've been quite bad at updating my Ravelry. I probably should do that a little bit more often, because I like looking back at my old projects and you know, the kinds of details that I put on my Ravelry page, such as which needles did I use to make a project, which yarns exactly, like I may remember the brand right now, but not which type of yarn. That kind of stuff is really helpful to have stored somewhere, and Ravelry for me was the only place where I kept those kinds of notes. I did not have a book around to help me with that, so yeah. Anyway, whether I'll update my Ravelry or not, they are finished, and I really like the project. Then there's a slightly bigger project that I've also been working on since then. I purchased the yarn to make a blanket. This is basically a Cozy Memories blanket, although I think the Cozy Memories blanket pattern, I've not looked at it too closely, but I think they call for an even number of stitches and like have 2 decreases in the center, like a left leading and a right leading. A decrease in the center to make this square shape, but I tend to use an odd number of stitches and then do a center double decrease on the backside row. I don't know exactly what a decrease they use on in the pattern, but basically it's inspired by that, but I am too stubborn to actually look at the pattern, so I'm just doing my own thing. So yeah, this blanket is growing quite a bit. It's like I measured how large it would be after blocking, and I found out it's about 1.20 meters wide, which is about 4 feet, I believe. And if I finish this row, then it's 10 by 10 squares, which will then make it also that length, and I'm not really sure if I'll put on 2 more rows or not. I'll see where I can go with it. This yarn is Anel Malmedy, which is a yarn that I have used quite a bit in the past, and I really like working with this yarn, so it was an easy purchase. And because I did not know exactly what colors I wanted to use, like I couldn't see them in person, and then they always turn out a little bit different, I decided to just purchase all of the colors that looked somewhat blue on the screen and white yarn, and go from there and make a blanket. And I'm simply rolling a dice. I have a list with all the coloring numbers, and there's 9 colors in total, and I just roll the dice and decide what color is going to be used for the next square, with the exception that the next square is going to be in this gap here, and I do not want to repeat this color or this color, so I don't want the same color to, I don't want two squares of the same color at the same point, but I don't mind if they touch like this. I mean, these are 2 squares of the same color as well, don't mind that, but yeah, it's random, but also not that random. Anyway, and it's coming along quite nicely. I started working on this, I don't know, I think I purchased this yarn early on the day that I miscarried, so I did not expect to feel that bad at that time, but I think I started within 2 weeks after, so probably end of January, working on this project. And I'm quite happy with the progress so far. It's a nice and easy project, and I can just pick it up whenever. Also, I hardly need to travel anywhere lately, so my need for having a small project for on the go is a bit smaller than it used to be. Like a blanket project was always nice to work on for those moments at home, but basically all of my time is at home. Like I go out for making walks through the neighborhood and such, but yeah, I'm not really going anywhere. I mean, the only time that I went back to university for my master's was in November, when my computer crashed so badly that I could not fix it at home. I just needed to have it plug in on a cable and at the university to be able to install it, because there's some security that doesn't allow you to install software from home. Anyway, so I have not been anywhere for a long time. So then there's been a few other projects. I've been sewing quite a bit, made a few more shirts for my son. This one is a good example. This one is slightly on the big side for him now, but he'll grow into it soon enough. It doesn't look ridiculous when he's wearing it. Although I must say that the addition of putting a snap here really helps. If you think that I'm holding it a bit strange so you can't see the backline, that's true, but that's because I've stitched in his name on the back side, and I don't think that needs to be shared on the internet as much. This one also contains our family name, which I prefer to not put out there on the internet so much. So yeah. Anyway, so this is one of the shirts that I've been working on. I have made this shirt in several sizes already from a lot of different fabrics, and I can't remember which ones I've made since the last podcast or not. And a lot of what I've made is also in the laundry at the moment, so most of it I can't show. I also know that I made it too out of this fabric. Obviously this is a little bit smaller, but that's because I'm still hopeful that one day we will have our second baby. Even though, there's been some difficulties on that way. Anyway, I made 2 bigger shirts similar to the ones with the crocodiles out of this fabric, and then I had enough leftovers to make a small romper in like a newborn size, and I decided to go ahead and make it anyway, hoping that one day I would need it, and if not, then I can hopefully pass it on to future cousins or something. I don't know, nephews, nieces. I mean, I'm hoping that my family will expand at some point in the future. Like, my brother is going to get married soon, so who knows? They might have gifts. But I really rather have one more myself. Anyway, I've also been working on making a few more masks. I have one here. This was a lot of fun to work on as well. Just some cotton masks with a lining layer in between, and then some elastics to go over your ears. And yeah, this was a quick and fun project to work on as well. And this actually came from some fabric that was really easy to work with. This actually came from the same piece of fabric, but they were all pre-printed pieces of mask shaped things, and they also, I don't know to what extent you can see it, but there's a red dotted line here that shows you where to sew, so it's really easy to make. It's called a mask panel in Dutch. I'm not sure what it's called or if it's even available abroad, but I can't imagine it won't be if you're into that. So yeah, I have a few more masks to make. I started with the prints that I did not like as much and kept some of the best for last, but as things work with me, sometimes I start a project like this and these have been cut out for probably over a month, and I still haven't turned them into actual wearable masks yet. But I did actually cut out the lining pieces yesterday, so maybe I will get to finishing that soon. There's 2 exciting projects that are here in my basket of handspun. I think I was already working on this bit of handspun that was still on a bobbin, I'm quite sure, last time I recorded the podcast, and I'm not sure if I was already done spinning all of it, but it's plied and turned into yarn now, and it's from 100% BFL. And it is not superwash treated, so it should be possible to turn this into diaper covers somewhat more easily. But I'm not really sure if I still want to do that, because really we have switched to not using wool diaper covers so much anymore, because at daycare that started to cause some leakages a bit more than we would like. So we might, we have changed to using polyurethane coated fabric diaper covers, and that seems to be working a little bit easier for the people at daycare, and because he has to go to daycare from our home, it's easy to just keep him in those kinds of covers all the time, and he has grown out of most of the diaper covers that he already had. Also, I simply do not always have the time or the energy to work on diaper covers, and they are not the most exciting project to work on. So I also spun this bit. It's also from Schaap en Draak. These are both the same kind of BFL, but obviously in different colors. I don't know what the name of this colorway is. I believe this is called Pauwvogel, which I think means peafowl. And colors kind of remind me of peafowl as well, so that makes sense, I think. This one is a 2-ply that I've spun a little bit more airy, and this one is a 3-ply. And I really like how this one turned out, and I'm not sure what I'm going to turn it into. Maybe a hat or something. There's not as much yardage as I would have liked. I'm not really sure what it is. It's slightly under, I'm not sure. It's really around 100 grams, and I think it's around 200 meters for both of these, actually. This one is a 3-ply and this one is 2-ply. I spun this one a bit more bulky. So I do have it on a note somewhere that tells me what the yardage is of these, but I'm not sure what to turn them into. Which is the problem that I have with more of my hand spun, because I really like spinning it, and I'm like, I'm going to make this out of it, and then I do not always actually do that. So even though I really, really like having things out of my own hand spun, like I have made a cardigan for myself out of my hand spun that I'm really proud of, and I like to wear it a lot. So yeah, I probably should do something with my hand spun, because it, even though it already makes me happy in a skein, it I'm sure it will bring me even more joy when it's actually a useful product instead of a skein that's pretty to look at. Decorations are kind of useful too, in a way. Anyway, so I think that was it for today. So thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for being patient and returning after this long of a hiatus. Yeah, I wish I had a happier story to share, and really I wish you all of the best, because this past year has been rough, and I really look forward to the end of it, of this whole pandemic situation, and yeah. I hope you all have a lovely time, and I hope to see you soon. Hopefully in about a month, but we will see what life puts on my path this time. Anyway, bye!